everyone, my name is Louisa Garcia and I am a former Citytech student, class of 2015.
Like, I don't know what to do because I've been in that same predicament.
Professor McCabe just asked a few of us to just talk about our experiences, especially being a graphic designer right now during the current pandemic.
And I asked my friend who's a recruiter for Google if she's noticed any differences or what's going on there. And she said for a company as big as Google, there's been no difference except that everyone's remote. There are fewer positions available, I think, because it's just there's less money to go around.
Yeah.
But at the same time, more companies are hiring remotely.
At my current role, I onboarded at the beginning of stay-at-home orders earlier this year in March. So from meeting the recruiter and meeting my team, everything has been virtually, and that's kind of the norm now in the industry for the foreseeable future, since this design is something you could do from the comfort of your home.
From what I've been hearing from most of my other colleagues in terms of how they recruit people for different accounts to work on, they want to see that you are still using your spare time because there's not that much job opportunities and certain students aren't able to go back on campus. They want to know how you're utilizing whatever free time you have to your advantage to either design or create something that you normally wouldn't expect to put in your book. And I've heard from other people that they have done some kind of design challenge during the whole COVID process. They just want to know that you're utilizing your skill set to sharpen whatever whatever
creative juices
thing that you're
Yeah.
So let's say if you're a designer, they expect you to be doing something within your field that is sharpening your skills so that when all of this COVID stuff is done, they'll be like, hey, this person was utilizing his time, not doing anything. They were actually utilizing it to get better at a certain software.
Right.
And they have the substance and the stuff to show.
People are really still hiring for the design field from what I'm hearing from a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And so even some of my colleagues. It's just it might be a little slightly more difficult. Obviously a little more competition.
This is one of those moments when this has never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the birth of the internet. Nobody's done this before, so just try anything out. So right now is a good time to just try stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's changed. Everything is just working a lot slower. Before, you could kind of get an interview and then maybe get hired in a week or a month. Now you may not hear back for 3 months. You may not hear back ever, but that's not bad. That just move on. That part hasn't changed. That's always been a norm. Just keep applying. Don't apply one place. I hate to say it, but don't necessarily look for a dream job. Look for what you kind of dream of doing. That's way more controllable than the company that you're applying to.
Okay.
You can say I dream.
So you're saying go for the job that you want to do, not necessarily where it's going on.
Yes.
Sit down and think about what you can do. There's no reason that just because you're a student and you don't have experience, you have a fresh perspective on things. So your input is just as valuable. I mean, you have to be nice to these people. Not too nice. You don't have to fake friendships or anything, but but you'll develop them anyway.
You can work around the world, basically.
I mean, yeah, why not?
Go on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
The question I have really is about networking, because that's harder to do.
That is harder to do. I think I'm the worst person to ask about this because I hate networking and I've tried to avoid doing it my whole life. And the reason that I built up a network is that I've switched jobs a few times and I've stayed in touch with my coworkers. And I think in this industry, I don't know how this is going to change, but there's a lot of turnaround. So you just end up in a new job every few years, and that way you end up knowing a lot of people.
I would probably go in the route of on social media groups. I would look for different design groups on Facebook, on LinkedIn, search on Twitter, different design groups, and see what online presence they have, and just introduce yourself through that. There's many Facebook groups about design that you can just join and just go in and introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do and post a little bit of work that can relate to their industry, whatever it is that they want that needs to be done.
Look out for people that they know that might have connections. Like go on LinkedIn and see if there are anyone that you know that works somewhere that could offer you a job spot. Or if not, I would go to some online Zoom events. And if you see someone that's speaking that you think that you can actually communicate with, I would reach out to them.
I mean, one of the other silver lining parts of this whole situation is that everybody's starting from scratch, basically. Everyone's at square one, and that they don't know how to solve these problems. And so it's always a good opportunity if you get in somewhere in the beginning, because, you know, if someone's trying some kind of networking event online and you join from the very beginning and there's only 10 people there, or you have some brilliant idea of how to make it better, you actually have the opportunity to like be seen and be heard and be listened to, because you're not being drowned out by, you know, either like whatever, like decades of tradition that they're not going to change, or like a huge crowd that everyone already knows each other.
You know, keep it short and simple, because a lot of the times recruiters don't have like the mental capacity to look at every single book that is unfortunately being emailed to them every single day. So they would like it that you have like a short description of whatever you're like creating in a very like simple, short, like 2-sentence, 3-sentence. And then you have like your supporting visuals to say, hey, this is what it would actually look like if I were to actually do this whole campaign. So just keeping it short and simple, and actually like showing like the strategy behind it that would make people want to like engage with it for the most part.
I could speak about my experience in working in an advertising agency, especially in art direction. Art direction is all about storytelling and trying to reach people of different backgrounds and ethnicities, and trying to make sure you make authentic story and authentic narratives that could grab the attention of consumers. To be a good art director in advertising, you definitely have to have a good skill set and background in design, especially typography and fonts and color and all of that stuff. But when it comes to the design and design studios, I've noticed they focus more on the technical skills of design and less on the concepting or storytelling aspect that advertising agencies focus on.
I think the thing that you should do is, it's called the T formula, because like basically you're focusing on one thing. So maybe your one thing is photography, and then you form the T, and on this T like arm, you basically have like social media, copywriting, graphic design, illustration, like all these other skills. But the main one, which forms a T, is still your photography. Like that's your main squeeze, you know what I mean? So for me, that's kind of been my thing. Like my main squeeze has been photography, and then everything else kind of falls in place. Although I've been trying to switch that up and trying to do more illustrations.
They say that they don't want to just see like random spec work. They want to see like the strategy and the thinking behind the stuff that you're creating. So like, let's say if you're creating an ad for sneakers, yeah, cool, it's designed and all, but was there like a strategy behind it where you're trying to, is there something like a part of that whole sneaker that taps into something for the culture, you know? So I would say just study up on what other agencies are doing. Like they do say, like think of really big, grand ideas, but if you don't have the certain like thought process behind it, like if you're saying, I want to do an ad campaign that talks about saving pandas, like how would you break it all down? Like how would you have people be aware that you're trying to save pandas with all the media buy that you're using, or how you're going to utilize the social platform that you're going to be talking about all this? Like how are you clearly planning out everything?
The thing that we look for is that thought process. So just aside for the actual design skills, it's like, well, how did you approach this? And even if the end result is well, we tried this and we tried this and we found that it doesn't work, that's great because you considered the problem, you came up with a bunch of hypotheses, you tested them, they didn't work, that's the result, that's the knowledge that you gained, and that's great, and like that's what I want to see.
I guess if you're not really interested in advertising, I would still, create like interesting pieces that are very detailed and that shows that you have the skill or the craft, because maybe an agency is looking for an illustrator and they might call you up to do a certain like style that they're looking for. And I would say just show as many pieces that you have to show off your skill set. Or if you're a photographer, show them all the work that you have that shows that you have the knowledge and the skill set, because that's what they're also looking for too.
In the last year and a half, my work has definitely switched to social. A lot of clients are looking for social, be more involved in social media, whether it's platforms like Facebook and Instagram or new platforms like TikTok. Digital and social is especially important now with a lot of people working from home and spending more times on their computers or on their phones, and social and being on your phone is a way for people to stay connected. So social is a big part of the industry right now.
I would say like at least 5 to 7, and it has to be very like fleshed out, but at the same time, again, like very simple and thought out.
Between After Effects and Premiere.
Just kind of getting like some of the soft skills a little better, like communication, I think.
Well, definitely, I would say Photoshop, Illustrator, and design, and also making sure that you are watching a lot of tutorials, whether it's on like LinkedIn Learning or even on YouTube, just utilizing that. But if you know anything regarding S motion, that's like a huge like bonus on your skill set, honestly, because they're always looking for people who know more than just the basics of what they are looking for.
Right.
So if you know After Effects,
My wish list would be heavy into Premiere, After Effects, and definitely Photoshop. And we'll throw in Illustrator there too, because Illustrator is used a lot from my experience.
So Premiere as opposed to Final Cut?
Yes, Premiere as opposed to Final Cut.
Now, is that because that's what the industry is demanding, or that you prefer?
I prefer Premiere over Final Cut, but I've also seen in interviews and stuff that Premiere is what's being asked for more than Final Cut, because Premiere can be used across all the spectrum. So I think Final Cut is only Mac based. I could be wrong though.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm not sure that's true.
Because it changes. I think every month there's some new trend coming on, and I have to fight to keep up with it just to see what's going on.
Yes. You will be hard pressed nowadays to find any company that isn't on social media, and not necessarily that you have to have this like ultra large following, but I think you should have a social media presence that you can be like, hey, this is what I did, like check out my page, and I think they'll actually respect that, and then I think people will actually hire you based off your social media, because a lot of companies are looking for that. They're looking for ways to always improve on their social media. I mean, I haven't worked a position that hasn't had their foot in there in some way, and there wasn't a position that I worked in where I hadn't actually had some kind of work to do with it, whether it's making a GIF or creating like an advertisement for social media. Mostly it's been creating the content and doing video work, creating ads, creating fun videos to show what the product looks like and what it feels like, just kind of lifestyle.
LinkedIn is probably one of the number one things that I use these days. Honestly, I'm starting to use it more than most platforms. Like I know everybody loves Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff, but I'm using LinkedIn more actively than I have over like the past 8 months. And it has been very good because in my personal opinion, and even just data backs this, the metrics for your post on LinkedIn, in my opinion, is better than most platforms. With Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, you kind of have to get into the weeds of the data to figure out who is actually looking at your content and all of that. Like they make it kind of muddled because they want you to pay. LinkedIn essentially wants to connect you to people, and they want you to know who's connecting with what you're watching. So if you made any post on LinkedIn, you can go in it without paying anything additionally. Look at your post. It will tell you how many people it reached. If you clicked on it, it will tell you the kind of people that it reached. So it'll tell you the companies that these people work for, and it may also tell you who the people are. So that's really informative in my opinion, especially if you.
The other thing with LinkedIn is it's about work. It's not social media per se. It's for you to be involved in your industry. Facebook and Instagram is just, here's my cat.
This is true.
It really depends on what you're doing with it. I mean, I know that you can also, it helps with visibility, so other people will find your work potentially and see it, and they might be impressed, and it makes you look like, oh, okay, this person is really dedicated to this person's really like passionate and interested in this. But which I think actually also helps a lot more when you're starting out, because you might not have that much work in your portfolio because you just haven't had as much experience.
Sure.
So in that sense, that could be helpful. But at the same time, I also like seeing, like when I'm looking at portfolios to hire someone, I like seeing their interests that maybe aren't design related. So if they have an Instagram for their art, I think that's great. Or maybe they're doing some kind of, I don't know, whatever. Maybe they like to do little engineering projects in their spare time, or they like photography or something. Like, I think that's just as valuable. So
I mean, it's a bonus if it has a following and certain people within that space in social media, but for the most part, they're very focused on like the work that you do that's in your book. And if you have any other access platforms that have it, then by all means, just send that to them as well. But they're not mainly focused on whatever you have on your Instagram or your Twitter.
What you should kind of do, in my opinion, is not really post up a lot of your professional work. Maybe do a little more personal work on there. So me myself, I did the whole calligraphy thing for a while.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that kind of showed off like what I can do outside of my own design skills. Like, like design, you want to show people like how you're thinking, your processes and all that, but like to really stand out, I think like having some sort of personality attached to your name really helps you out.
I think it's very important for students to have a big social media presence, especially on LinkedIn. That's where recruiters are. That's where I got my recent role at VMLYNR. All my jobs, I got it through networking people online. I've applied to jobs online at the same companies I used to work at, and get rejected, but that doesn't mean you're not good enough. It's all about the people you meet in the industry, and since we can't go to events, the best way to meet those people is online and through LinkedIn.
One of my friends, she recently started a whole account just drawing plants and doing watercolors of like different plants, and that really helped her like sort of figure out her personality in design and what she wanted to do in the future. Like it's important for like your own self growth and like your career growth as well.
I think social media, you have to monitor yourself, and if you're using it in a healthy and productive way, then sure, make a Instagram account for your design. Maybe that's something that's going to motivate you to do some kind of small design projects to like improve your skills, because you're posting them, so it's this motivation to keep doing it and working on yourself. That's good. But if it's something that is like eating away at all of your time and you're actually not doing anything and you're just scrolling, or maybe it's making you feel bad because you're thinking that you're never going to be as good as this, then that's not productive.
In my personal opinion, I don't think everyone has to build an audience. I'm not that guy. Like, I love social media and I've made a lot of money in it, but I'm not that guy to say everyone needs to start a YouTube channel and start all this. I'm not that person, because one, it's very time consuming. If you've done any work in social media, it is extremely time consuming. And it requires a lot of planning, a lot of content strategy. You have to actually make it, so production. And then if you're not paying somebody, you're doing everything from strategy to management to moderation to production. That's about 8 people's jobs that one person is doing.
Yep.
Can one person do it? Yes. Do I recommend everyone do that? No. There's no way I would recommend everyone do that.
Right.
What I would recommend is using a combination of maybe LinkedIn and another platform, and figure out your main purposes for why you use these platforms. If you're using LinkedIn to market to other people, that's great. If you're using Instagram to just occasionally post artwork, that's fine too. If you're using it because you realize you want to target a specific field and you have a lot of knowledge in it and you're learning about a field and you want people to know that you're an expert in that field, sure, you can post content. You can start creating ideas and doing content for that. Do I think you have to do that? No, but I think it is useful if you choose to do that.
Right.
Currently right now with my illustration page, I have about almost 2,400 followers. And while that's like not that crazy, it took me a while to build it up. But it was consistency and with consistency and like making sure that it all looked cohesive. You know what I mean? So I think definitely have a strong social media presence. And if you have like 200 followers or not even that, make sure that you actually know how to use the social media networks, whatever it might be, like TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram, Facebook, whatever. LinkedIn's become a new like hot thing for like social media presence. A lot of companies are posting more and more content on LinkedIn. So get familiar with all of them and just know them. Whether or not you use it, whether or not they're looking for it, they'll be so happy that you know it, and it could be something that you bring to the table just because you know stuff that someone else doesn't know.
I would say one more thing. Don't forget podcasts. You guys can talk about what you want to do. You can shape an idea around it. Say if you want to enter a particular industry, instead of you doing tons of posts on social networks that you maybe don't feel like doing, maybe you just like talking about it. And then maybe you can get the opportunity to reach out to people in this space and talk to them about the thing that you want to do.
The best advice that I can give is, if you love it, stay dedicated to it and just stick to it. Don't give up. It's going to be hard. People are going to tell you no. The most often word you're going to hear is no. I don't think it's going to go that way. Don't take that for an answer. Just get up, keep pushing, keep your head up, draw, design, do whatever it is that you love to do. Just keep doing it and don't let nobody take that away from you.
Like an agent, do an agency even, and they'll help you sort of figure out where you want to go. It's really just figuring out what kind of path in the career you want to go. It's not necessarily like graphic design is just like obviously really big. So it's figuring out what industry you want to get into and what sort of side of the market really.
Oh man, I would probably be everywhere on the internet, on Indeed, on LinkedIn, a Monster if that's still going. I would be on Dribble. I would be heavy on Behance and just contacting people through LinkedIn, Behance, and all those other platforms to see if they need any kind of little graphics, little flyers, little web banners, little something small that can help them, and put my name out there to try to work with them.
Sure.
Understand what makes you happy. That's a bit of a mouthful, because I know that's a little bit tough for people to figure out, but I think you have to find that work-life balance. A lot of times I've heard stories from people who worked at agencies and agencies work them to death, and if you don't mind that and you want to put in the time and you want to do that, then totally cool. go for that agency life. But if I think you want to have more of a work-life balance, then maybe try a smaller like business or very corporate. Because I used to work for Clarins as a graphic designer there. Clarins is a beauty company, and it was really hectic during the hours that I was working, like really crazy. But at 6 o'clock or 6:30, we were always out the door.
People need designers. Like we still have a lot of we still do a lot of digital stuff, especially my company. So really just like going online and just posting and like your resume and your portfolio.
I mean, to be clear, you have to be a very good designer, and you have to have skills. And there's a lot of competition, and everybody's pretty good. So you have to have that.
Things that I would recommend anyone does, regardless of field, is get a little bit of financial education, get a good understanding of kind of what do you need to live, how much money do you need to live from month to month, like not just year to year, month to month, like, really do like just a simple budget thing and realize, okay, I need $1,000 to $2,000 a month to live. Okay, great. Now I know what I kind of need to survive.
I feel like we're really fortunate as graphic designers because we are able to work from home for the most part. What I do, because it's required for me to go in and photograph jewelry, I have to go in at least once a week. So I try to like minimize it as much as possible. I go in, I shoot the jewelry, I come back home, I edit from home, retouch the photos, and then I send it in for review and stuff like that. So I think for the most part during the pandemic, like I feel like we are a more fortunate bunch.
Like, I'm like, do I want to work in-house? Because it would be nice to just like stick to one product and really like develop it. But then it's so nice to be able to work on with different clients. You literally learn about all of these different things that you would never learn about. So the benefit of working for an agency is that you get to work on different projects and learn about how maybe you should start thinking about your retirement savings.
I just started taking whatever opportunity I could get. I made sure to follow up with Douglas Davis or Professor Garastegui to see if there were any opportunities or any seminars or events that I could attend. And I just, I put myself out there. Yeah, I showed them the work. I put myself out there, and they came to me, and I was like, cool. So I guess that's all you have to do basically, but you have to do it virtually in this time and age. So that's the hard part.
Yeah, but what you're proving is those efforts pay off. It's not like a fantasy that's ever going to happen. It actually works. This process works. Are you registered to vote?
Yes.
Good.